Welcome to Studio 58A Live here at the Jamaica Information Service, our discussion program coming to you live on Facebook. I'm your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you to everyone joining us online, wherever you are around the world. We do appreciate it. As you watch, remember to send in your questions and comments so we can put them to our guest. And like how we have your attention, do us a favor now. Share this video with a friend or 2 or 30 so we can have a very lively discussion. Now, the country's premier sporting facility, the National Stadium, is to be upgraded over the next 5 years. Here to shed some light on what the upgrades will entail is General Manager of Independence Park Limited, which manages the facilities at the National Stadium, Major Desmond Brown. Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
All right. Now, Major Brown, first thing I would like you to do is to just elaborate for persons who may not know what the roles and functions of Independence Park Limited are.
All right. Previous to 2002, the facility was managed by InSports. Mm-hmm. The government spent quite a bit of money, I think about $5 million US, to upgrade the facilities, specifically in preparation for the 2002 World Junior Games. Mm-hmm. And a decision was taken at that time to separate the management of the facility and the development of sports. So Independence Park Limited was formed with a specific responsibility to take care of the facilities, allowing InSports to continue specifically dealing with the development of sports. So that's how we came. So we are now responsible for the operation, management, maintenance, development of the facility. In 2009, the Trelawney Stadium was also added to our portfolio.
Okay.
So we are responsible for both what's in Kingston and the Trelawney Stadium.
All right. Now, I understand that there's a 5-year plan in place to develop the park. Can you give us the backstory before we move into what that plan will entail? Give us the backstory about how, the designs about making the park upgraded and getting it to where we really want it to be as a country.
Well, first of all, the stadium is over 55 years old. Mm-hmm. And a lot of new demands and new requirements cannot be met by the current stadium, especially after 9/11. When the whole security arrangements was changed significantly. So right now, we currently do not meet quite a bit of the requirements to host the national events. We're only allowed to continue because, under the grandfather clause, nothing happens, so they continue. We don't meet the health and safety. We don't meet, for instance, there's a new rule now that players and officials must not enter the facility in the same tunnel or same access as spectators or VIP. Our stadium have one McDonald's tunnel, which everybody comes through.
Right.
Doping, for instance, something new. There's a requirement for specific design doping facilities. What we have now are some changing rooms that we modify for doping. We get away with it, but that's not what it's supposed to do.
Not quite ideal.
In your own field, media. Media runs things now. Media dictates when events start, when they finish. And the requirements in terms of Wi-Fi and broadcast facilities, which we don't have now. So we have to upgrade that significantly. But there are some other basic things. Medical. We don't have proper medical facilities for our patrons. Concessions. If you notice, when we have a large event there, we actually put vendors in the bleachers.
Right.
The reason for that is that the Ministry of Health tells us we don't do that because there's not enough facilities. So you have right now we're having national champs, which starts today.
Trials and so on.
Right. Tomorrow,
senior champs
tomorrow is a big day. The place, I believe, will be full. And if you don't have the vendors in the bleachers, they can't get a bottle of water. So the design, and I tell you something crazy. Currently, there are more toilets in the grandstand that hosts 5,000 than in the bleachers that holds 25,000. You do the maths.
Obviously, that's not a tenable situation.
What we have to do now, when we expect a large event, we actually have to rent portaloos. So a lot of things that have changed significantly. So with all of that, if we are going to continue to host international events, regional international events, we have to upgrade the facility. Right. And that's the whole background behind the need for redevelopment.
All right. So, now the obvious question now is, what does the plan entail? What are the stages involved, and how are you executing them?
What we have done, we worked with our designers, and we're going to have 4 phases. And the reason for that is that we wanted to do the work, but at the same time, don't lock off the stadium. Because one of the fallbacks of the renovation in 2001, 2002 is that they closed the stadium, there was no place for boys champs, and it created all kind of confusion.
Naturally.
So we wanted to do it in a way that, yes, we won't have all the seats, but we'll have enough so that we can continue the event. If there's a World Cup football match or there's boys and girls champs, we can do something. So the plan is to have 4 phases. The first phase is going to be the other thing is the lights. We are very inefficient lights, and if you're anywhere in Kingston when those lights are on, you can see them.
Right.
That means that that light that you are seeing is wasted light.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're going to change the lighting system, more efficient lighting. And the other thing is too, when you have this inefficient lighting system, it makes the thing that's more expensive for people to use.
I would imagine, yeah.
So we have to do a lot of what we're doing now is to not only improving the facilities, but make it more cost effective for people to use. So the first will be what we call a little grandstand. That's the area opposite the current grandstand. That will be taken out from we'll take out also the cycle track.
Oh, yes.
Which is now obsolete.
Right.
They don't use that kind of cycle track anymore. Unfortunately, this is the only one we have, and we're working with the government is working with the Cycling Association to see what they can do to put up something, because they really need somewhere to train.
Right.
It will take out from the track level, and we rebuild completely from the bottom up to include all the things we talk about, proper concessions, the other thing is that we don't have any boxes. Now, income stream.
Right.
Anytime this thing was built, income stream was only ticket sales.
Right.
It has changed.
So you have moved that far away from that now.
You have concession, you have boxes. So we have boxes, we have different category of seats. You have club seats, standard seats. All those are going to include over there. We're also going to design the stadium because you can't design a stadium anymore for weekend use only. So we're going to design it so that there'll be rooms that people want to have seminars during the week, they can rent. Multi-purpose. I mean, if you go to a stadium like Liverpool or Manchester United, they have weddings there.
But as you mentioned that, now I'm just looking at our stadium and looking at how it's configured. Can we accommodate that kind of construction? I mean, based on how it is now, do we have the space?
Yes, man.
Essentially?
Yes. Because what you're going to do, remember, you have the stands and there's an earth mount behind it. We're going to take out the stand and the earth mount and just build up.
Okay.
So we won't have an earth mount anymore. I mean, I was just saying that when you go to Liverpool, I know you have places to have weddings. And I'm not sure we'll have weddings in ours.
Well,
but what we're saying is that we have to design it so that it can be more user friendly. It can be used during the week and not only for sporting events. That's another thing too. It can't be designed only for sporting events. So in our design, for instance, we're going to talk about putting, for instance, part of the development is a proper covering for the track and the football field so we can have concerts. You have to try and, diversify
your revenue streams.
Exactly, your revenue stream.
Okay.
So that is it. And then that's the first phase. So when you finish there, then we go to the south side. We'll take out that section similarly and put up the same thing. And then you go to the north. And then the final phase will be to renovate the existing grandstand.
Okay.
For instance, one of the things that we fall short seriously on, what we call a venue operating center, is now required that you have a room. We have all your cameras. We have been putting in cameras, but we need more. And they have the screens where the fire department, the police, private security, Ministry of Health, everybody's in one room.
Okay.
And it's called like a management center. Any decisions to be taken can be taken there.
Like a control, like a command center.
Command center. We don't have that now. We have 2 little rooms that we try to use, but that's part of the new system. You want to put in one of the things that we need there is a proper gym for the athletes to use. That sort of thing. So all of that is part of
warm-up room, warm-up air, that kind of thing.
Or
even beyond that.
For instance, if you have a proper changing room now at a stadium, you have things like ice baths, all those things that we don't have. So those are the sort of things we're going to be putting in.
Now, as far as the actual sports facilities, is any consideration being given, for example, to the field and the track itself? How will that impact, or the construction impact the track? Because we don't necessarily want to have that compromised, or the field itself compromised.
No, well, we're going to be hoarding off the construction area. Because we have one of the few Class 1 fields in this hemisphere, including the Americans.
Okay.
America probably has 2, we have 1. And to make a world record, you have to have a Class 1 field. So we have a Class 1 field in Jamaica. Bahamas recently just put in one for the world relays. So, and our football field is, we have another issue now with weeds and things. We're trying to get some specialized herbicides to deal with it. But by and large, we're going to make sure we're protected. Because even although more games are being played on artificial turf, FIFA still prefers that their matches are played on grass.
All right. So is any consideration being given, for example, to the other facilities? You have the Layla Robinson courts, you have the basketball court, you have Stadium East, that kind of thing. Stadium
East right now, I think you heard the minister announce that we should be putting in a new track shortly. Hopefully funds will be approved because the track is in. When the manufacturer came and saw the track being used before Champs, he held his head and said he has never seen in his life so many people using that track. Because coming up to all the events, boys Champs, prep school Champs, primary school Champs, it is the only track that the schools have access to.
That's true.
So it is more than, to say it is overused is an understatement.
Okay.
So it is going to be renewed, working them to get a slightly harder surface. It won't be IWS certified, but it will give us the use. Because the other thing was, remember, if our athletes don't get access to these facilities, they can't develop.
Right. They have to be training on them.
And sometimes people say to us, why allow so many people on the field? If we don't allow them on the field, they'll never have the access to develop. So it's a catch-22 situation.
Now, let me ask you, naturally it takes cash to care. So how is in terms of financing this endeavor, what's the plan behind that?
Well, let me tell you first about our current operation. Currently, the government gives us about 35% of our operating budget. That we have to work, we have to earn. And sometimes people come to you, but you're owned by the government, well, I can't get it free. They can't get it free because we need the money to maintain the place. That's step number one. In terms of capital, we still rely on the government for our capital investment. Either through the Ministry of Finance, through our partners, SDF, which Sports Development Foundation, will assist us greatly. Right now, for instance, they're doing over the outside basketball court, putting in new seats, new court, everything. So if we our partners there are helping us for capital work, but we have to earn 70% of our operating costs.
All right, and now that's what I was hoping. Well, I guess let me just recash in terms of the plan. Has there been any funds set aside to facilitate the renovation of the 5-year plan itself? Okay,
let me tell you where we are now. You know that the government has put in a system where you have to go through PIMSEC. You apply through PIMSEC. And that I can agree with that, because you have to make sure that everything that the government, all the agencies are doing is in line with what the government wants to do. So it goes to PIMSEC, and PIMSEC is in planning agents, and they said, okay, yes, this is good. It's in line with what the government wants, because it's actually a developed stadium is part of the 2030 plan as well. Then it goes to Ministry of Finance, and what they do is they have to do a funding proposal. Ministry of Finance has approved that. They have sent out the RFP. The RFP came back in, and they are now reviewing it to see if the persons who responded are okay. Then they will do this funding proposal. Now, what the governments do with that funding proposal, I'm not too sure. Whether they're going to fund it themselves or seek external funding. But that's where we are now, where the funds have been laid aside to do this project proposal. And then once it's coming, the government will decide how it's going to actually get the funds. So we are down the track, as I say to people. I'm very optimistic, very, very optimistic that we're going to get it, because I believe all the people from the top right down. And I can tell you, I'm in this job for 14 years now.
14 years, all right.
When I got there, when you went to Ministry of Finance, you kind of got the feeling that, here they come again looking for money. But when you go to finance, I think they have now recognized what sports does for Jamaica. And the feedback you get from going to finance or everywhere else is that they treat you as an equal partner at the table. You're no more go to the back of the line, and if anything is left, you might get it. So I'm very confident.
Very optimistic.
I'm very optimistic.
That's good.
That we know money is scarce.
Naturally.
And they have to allocate it accordingly. But I'm very confident that we're in line and we will get it.
All right. Well,
apart from the external requirements, I think there's also an internal demand that it is done, and I think we'll get it done.
All right. We're in studio here talking with Major Desmond Brown. He's the general manager of Independence Park Limited, which manages the National Stadium and the facilities which are within that park area. And he's basically giving us the rundown on the 5-year plan to upgrade and improve the facility. Let me just check in online to see who is talking to us. We have many persons saying hello. We have Millicent Minot, Diana Hyman, Raquel Brown, Maxine Campbell. Thank you all for your comment. We really appreciate it. Now, let me shift back over to you, Major Brown. In terms of smoking, you mentioned that smoking is an issue at the stadium that you want to tackle.
A big issue.
Go ahead for me.
One of the problems we have is that, and sometimes even some of the event organizers don't recognize it. Apart from smoke being dangerous to you, people just don't like it. And if you want people to come to your event, for sports to develop in Jamaica, you have to have supporters. You have the supporters who going to come and pay to come to this thing, probably buy a shirt or something.
Right.
No. So you want people who can afford those things. One of the problems we have is that we have a set of people who come to these events. They smoke, they drive away people who would want to come and support you. And they are not in a position to support your whether it's a club or your event. So we're trying to get them to get to the point where, yes, smoke somewhere else. But it's also a government requirement now passed in Parliament. No smoking in public places.
Right.
So we are working to get a kind of consensus going between ourselves, the Ministry of Health, the police, to enforce that. Because if we don't get a grip of this, it's going to chase away a lot of our potential patrons who will come and support us.
Well, I agree, because I myself don't necessarily, I don't smoke, and I don't like, for example, to be exposed to second-hand smoke.
Right, and you go there and a person just pull up a cigarette beside you. You don't want that. So we are trying to educate them first and to enforce it, to make sure that people can, on a day basis, I can carry my son, my daughter, my wife, and I will not be, harassed by smoke.
Okay.
There's also another area. I should give me a chance.
Right.
Drones.
Right.
There a proliferation of operational drones now.
Right.
And actually we're working with the Civil Aviation Department to come up with a policy about drones. To operate a drone in the stadium right now, you have to get an approval from Civil Aviation. You have to get insurance, public liability insurance. I don't know if you know the amount of damages. We have on our board an eminent doctor who deals with brain, and he has been telling us the amount of operation of drones hitting people in the face, in the head. Because a lot of these persons who have drones just fly them and they're not. In fact, one of the things that I think they're working on is that to fly a drone in an official area, public space, you have to have a sign off from that you can properly operate it.
Right.
You will see people operating and they have drones coming down 2-3 feet off people's head. So we have to get that sorted out. So we are taking the lead in this and say, if you fly a drone, you have to have the approval, you have to have the insurance, and also we have to remember rights of the operator.
Right.
You have to get approval from the operator. So we tell people, if we see your drone and you're not approved, we're going to seize it. Okay. So don't come to the stadium and just think, let's fly a drone like that. It's not going to work.
You need to get some prior approval and make some kind of arrangements beforehand.
And we have to know that you can operate the zone properly, because we have to look after our patrons. Our patrons come first.
All right. Now, Major Brown, let me ask you this. In terms of, you said you've been in the job for 14 years, and where is it that you would like to see what stage do you want to see our stadium develop to? What's your ultimate vision for the facility?
I see a all-covered stadium. We'll have more bleachers. That's the plan. About the seating capacity, about 40,000. Persons have said more, but I don't think we can sustain. You can't build a stadium to do 1 or 2 events. You have to have at least 6-7 events that can fill it. And we think 40,000 is just about what we can sustain. With all the modern facilities. For instance, when a radio station or television station come there, they don't have to walk around running wires. They just go and plug in. All those will be in position. All the facilities are required. All the medical facilities. The other thing that we are finding now is that, which most public spaces, is that when the stadium is designed, it was more men going to events. So the female bathrooms are much smaller.
Okay. So
if you go to most public spaces, the women take over the bathroom. So we are going to make sure that we readjust that, because the designers design for certain 70-30, 60-40, whatever it is. I think we are going at 50-50 right now.
Right.
So we're going to design our things that can better facilities for the women, so they don't have to take over the men's bathroom. One of the things we never had, for instance, is storage. No storage whatsoever.
Storage.
Equipment maintenance area. When I got to stadium, there's not even one good lawnmower there.
Wow,
Fortunately, that has changed. But I see a modern operating stadium. What I can say about Jamaica, believe me, between the JFF and the J3s, they have trained, and the other institution, they have trained, we have a good set of sports administrators who can run almost any type of event here. So one of the things we're looking for is that when we get the stadium, we'll be able to attract more international events here. The minister has indicated what she's in, but for instance, once you have the stadium, then you can.
That's when you can start making arrangements.
Yeah, making arrangements. And we feel that once we get that in place, we'll be able to attract more. Because we're on the world map. I mean, our athletes have put us on the world map, and a lot of people want to come to Jamaica. Say, what's happening here?
All right. Do you find that persons are still utilizing the facility as naturally we have the 10-pole events, champs, your trials, your things like that, but do you find that other federations are able to come and utilize the facility as often as they'd like, or do they feel
let me tell you
intimidated
something.
about it?
The government has put in a facility, which a number of us pushed for, and it was a couple of years ago, and it's been continued, where they're providing funds for teams who require the use of the national facility for training and selection of teams. So we have had a number of, although the normal J3s, for instance, national trials would be able to access it, netball would be able to access it. But we're finding now is table tennis is accessing it.
Right.
Gymnastics would never, because these sports don't carry the crowd that would at least pay the tickets to cover the cost.
Right.
So because if the government never put this in place, they'd never be able to have
Which
access.
is true, and you would develop the athletes.
Right. So the gymnastics, badminton, table tennis, volleyball are now being able to use the facility and sponsored by the government.
Okay.
So that I think is a great initiative, and they're using it, and it's obviously building the athletes. So we expect to see, we have some coaches from China.
Right.
They were here with badminton, for instance, and every evening they were in the arena using it. So we expect to see improvements.
All right. Wonderful. It seems like there's a lot of plans. Now, I guess based on where things are insofar as the funding plan and that kind of thing is concerned, I suppose the average Jamaican in the street would just like to be able to see the facility going up as soon as possible, because that's just how we are. We want to see a world-class facility
everywhere
tomorrow.
I go, that's the first question
I mean?
I'm being asked. When are we going to start? And I think that we may not have been moving as fast as some of us would like, but at least we're moving in the right direction.
Yep.
And that's good. We're also looking at some other things, like we're going to try and put things like a small AstroTurf outside so people can come. Because what we want to do is have the facilities being used. Because the government didn't say we must go down. Although some people believe that we're not making money. The idea is to break even.
Right.
And so we are trying to do what we can. Part of our problem is that the facility is so old. I mean, even last junior racers meet, right where the VIP walked in, a pipe burst in the morning.
Oh, wow, okay.
So,
that's not a good
after
look.
55 years, the things that start to happen. We have, remember when the stadium was built, they were using iron pipes. We find some of those pipes now collapsing.
Right.
So so we want to if we can just get rid of those and reduce the overall cost, then we can make it far more affordable for people.
I know, speaking of pipes, I know that the Aquatic Center, some of the facilities and the behind the scenes, the plumbing and so on was upgraded. Can you talk to me about that? I don't quite know how recently it was done, but
Yes, it was done. Again, I talked to you about our partners. This was done through the Sports Development Foundation.
Right.
They did first the filters. Then they did the 50-meter pool. And they just completed the diving pool. And they gave them some equipment. We have one set of things left. We have to put in a diving board. We have to put in some lanes for the 25-meter pool. But they have spent quite a bit of money. Don't ask me the money, but I know they spent the money.
Okay.
But they have spent quite a bit of money, and we really thank them for their continued support, because without that, it would have been difficult. Okay. And because of that, they just recently hosted the Caribbean Games.
Right.
And so,
things coming out, moving in the right direction.
Things are moving in the right direction. They about 4 or 5 years ago, they resurfaced the netball courts. So it was they who funded about 8 years ago the new track in the stadium and Stadium East. So STF has been a
strong partner,
a very extremely strong partner.
Let me ask this now in terms of parking and I guess logistics in terms of moving people and as I know. Sometimes when we have major events, traffic and movement and so on along the road becomes a real issue. Is there any consideration be given to streamlining that and making that, I guess, a little more simple?
Well, we're trying to work with the traffic department to see how best we can do that. They have some improvements, for instance, Mountain View Avenue planned. And we're talking with them because one of the biggest problems we have is we're asking them to override the traffic light, especially after events. And because if you use the traffic light, they're going to have a backup.
Right.
Especially the one at the top of Mountain View and Stanton Terrace. So we work with them. Sometimes we get good support, sometimes not so good support, but we work with them, and
you're making it work.
We're trying to make it work.
Okay.
Because one of the things, once upon a time, if you rented the stadium, you couldn't rent the arena. Well, that is because of just the thing. What we have had to do, for instance, because when you rent the stadium, for instance, you have to have part of the new security requirements. You have to have a fenced area that's defined, and we never have fenced area defined. What we have had to do, for instance, is put a fence, come right by the front of the arena, right down, so we can actually fence off the stadium and the car park, but still use over by the arena and by the swimming pool and indoor center, because we can't afford anymore to just have one facility being operated.
Right.
And I know sometimes people say, boy, when they have the event, they don't want the ballast in there, but unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that.
Okay.
So we work with our, most persons are understanding, and we try our best to maximize. Maybe I should tell you that, one of our larger income streams is not sports.
Really though? So what's generating the income for you?
You have entertainment events. We have a lot of church events. Right? So, we have to balance. Whereas sport is a premier, and we try to give them priority, because that's what we're there for.
Right.
But we also have to look at other income streams.
Which is natural. You have to diversify.
Yes, and we have to earn some money. Because, in fact, most of our sporting events, they get the biggest discounts. We try to go almost, or they don't think so. But we do give them the best discounts. They get discounts other people don't get. But we try our best.
All right. Well, as you have it, as that you can hear Major Brown, you can hear the passion, you can hear how committed he is to really upgrading the stadium and realizing that vision that he has so very well articulated. Now, Major Brown, I'm going to switch tack to you, because I understand that you're also involved in golf, and you've been working to try and get the sport to pick up popularity in Jamaica. I understand that you organized a tournament, a professional golf league. How is that coming, and how is it working? I guess trying to grow the popularity of the sport.
Well, one of the things I found when I started playing golf, I'm one of these late golfers. My brother's been trying to get me to play golf, and I've been laughing at him and says, lazy man game. Right. Until I started playing, I realized it's much more. It's a game of skill, focus, and concentration. All right. But I realized that people like me, who have at 95, will never have enough time to practice to make it to the top level. When you start going on the field, and you see some of these caddies who have the skill, but there's no incentive for them. They're on the field, they're on the golf course every day.
Right.
That's where they work. They may get a bag, but for half a day, the rest of the day, they have nothing to do. Right. They can go out and play. But they had nothing to encourage them to go and play. So after discussion with some of my friends, we approached a number of sponsors, and we got some sponsorship where they play for some cash. Now that is an incentive. So now much more of them are playing and practicing to get to that level. I am expecting that hopefully I'll get the continued sponsorship in about 3 years when it starts to the difference. Because quite a few of them right now are old. I'm looking for some young ones to come up. Right now, for instance, in sports is organizing a summer program. Right. They're looking at some schools near to the golf course. And we're hoping out of that you'll get some youngsters. Unfortunately, golf is not a cheap sport.
That's true. That's one of the main barriers, I imagine. Right.
So what most of the golf courses, Caymanners, where I'm a member, Caymanners will work with people and give them opportunity. One of the instructors, for instance, who will be instructing this, he got a golf scholarship. He comes from the surrounding community. He got a golf scholarship, went to UWI, and he's now coming back. So, and there are many golfers. I find golfers to be very, very benevolent. They will support if they see the effort, they see the skill, and it's just enough to identify it. Right. And I'm hoping that in 5 to 10 years we'll see a Jamaican golfer in the top 100. All right. But that's a start at the bottom. We have, for instance, in July, if you go to Caymanners now, you'll see in the afternoon you'll see some young kids. They have the junior tournament. It's being hosted by Caymanners this year, and you will see the youngsters. But even those youngsters, they will go to school and they'll go to college, and they may or may not play golf. Hopefully that some of them will. All right. So, All right.
So are you associated with the federation? You work with them, or this is more of an individual endeavor?
Well, the professional, I work with the Professional Golf Association. There are two associations.
Okay.
There's the amateur one, and there's the professional one. Because for instance, once you enter this particular tournament, you can't enter amateur tournament after that. You become a professional.
Okay.
So I'm actually, in fact, they help us to operate it. Professional golf president, Dr. Grant, and Seabird Walker from Cinnamon Hill. They're the two primary persons who did it. And they're actually part of the organization of the event.
Right. So in terms of your long-term vision, you see it picking up the kind of popularity. Naturally, obviously, the finances are a barrier, but at the same time, once you find that once person get introduced to things, and if they really like it, they do tend to stick with it. So
one of the beauty about golf, you see, is that golf uses more or less the same skills as cricket.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe we the hand-eye coordination, we have a lot of that here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm looking for is that some of these youngsters will take it up, do well, because there are also a lot of golf scholarships.
Right.
So
Scholarship opportunities.
Right. So I'm hoping and then they'll continue playing golf. So it's another way of using sports for to give opportunities to our kids who normally have these opportunities.
All right, wonderful. I think with that said, I think it's time for us to move into wrapping. I mean, this has been a very fruitful discussion. I'm sure that many persons would have been glad, especially persons in the diaspora, would have been glad to hear the plans for developing our sports facilities, because that's part of Jamaica's appeal as well. Naturally, they want to come and see where we run so fast.
Well, one of the things that I could just quickly add is that we also work with tourism to develop sports tourism.
Right.
And we're looking at Trelawney Stadium more for the sport. Because when people come for sports tourism, they're not only coming to play the sports. They want to go and play golf, they want to go to the beach, they want to go to attractions.
Right.
And that is North Coast. So we met with the director of tourism. We're going to follow up those meetings to see how we can work together. Because what they're interested in is bringing people in the country to stay in a hotel. We're bringing people to do something.
Right.
We can work together to make both things happen.
Make a happy partnership
so
there.
That is what we're working to, because I really believe that Trelawney is ideally located for that. So whereas when we're pushing Trelawney for a big mass event as we do in town, that's what Trelawney is going to be.
All right.
So we're working with the tourism as well on that.
That sounds extremely promising. I mean, if we can get the right events down that side, I can see us picking up and doing extremely well.
I think
especially it being the birthplace of one Usain Bolt.
Yeah, what we have to do is put in some more facilities, because when you come for training, things like medical facilities, things like gym, all those things which we're not in place yet.
Right.
But we're working to put those in place so that we can attract also cricket.
Right
Now, what we want to do, part of our development plan, is to put in a cricket where if you have a man suspect of bowling, we have to send him to either Trinidad, Barbados, England. We want to set a scene where you have your cameras and you have your bowling and you can do assessment. Because
assess his action and throw in motion.
Because I don't know if you know, cricket is now being played a lot on the east coast of the States.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yes.
I know there's an interest, I know there's a team, but I didn't realize persons
a lot of been played in parks. We want to attract some of those guys to come here for a week. Right? Because most of them play on inferior pitches. The pitch is not as good. So those that want to get somebody, we have Jimmy Adams. Jimmy says, if you guys had a better facilities, I could get my county team come here. But we have to put in facilities first.
Facilities
and then I think Barbados get over 200 cricket teams per year.
Jamaica should be getting some
of that.
Definitely.
So I'm hoping, and I think that our initial discussion with the tourism people, we feel that we know on the same track,
on the same wavelength.
And I think we're going to achieve, and that's my passion now. I have two passions. One to get the stadium redeveloped, and the other is to get Trelawney going as a sports tourism. Well,
I'm sure that with the vision and the passion that you have demonstrated, I'm sure you'll get it done. And with that, I mean, it seems to me that this is something that's really close to your heart. So I'm sure our persons who are watching, persons in diaspora, will be glad to see it and glad to lend their own support as well. As a matter of fact, if you can just, I guess, if they wanted to reach out to you or talk to you, is there any way in which they can do so?
Yes, they can. My email is DESMONA Brown, BROWN at gmail.com, or they can send it to Independence Park 02 at gmail.com. And very shortly, I'm giving a plug here for JIS. JIS will be doing my website.
All right, wonderful.
So you see, we have our
all
website.
The more reason for you out there to go on to the Independence Park's website.
We're working on our website shortly, so we'll have a website. You can One of the things we wanted on our website, for instance, people call and ask about facilities. How much is this old? Where is this? I buy a ticket, I want to know where.
Right.
So all those information we'll have on our website.
Wonderful. I think on that note, it's time for us to wrap. Thank you so much, Major Brown, for all the information. It has been really a pleasure talking to you and to hear the passion that you have to see our sports facilities upgraded to first world international standards. Really appreciate that. Thanks to everyone who tuned into our discussion, especially those of you who sent in your comments. We really do appreciate it. And if you sent in a comment and we didn't get to answer it, don't worry. We will be going back through afterwards and hopefully we'll get to yours and send you an answer that you'd like. Remember, our audience plays a major part in our show, so if there's anyone in particular you'd like us to have in studio, let us know and we'll try our best to have that person in studio as soon as possible. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram at Jamaica Information Service. We do this every Thursday live on Facebook. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis, and this has been Studio 58A Live. Thank you again for joining us, and please have a good day.